Hello everybody, welcome back to the shop. Today's going to be a short video just demonstrating how I make flat 3D printed coasters. The method I use to make these coasters is called the flat top down method. So your design is perfectly smooth and the face of your design will actually pick up the texture off of your build plate. So if you have a textured build plate, you'll get this ripply pattern. If you got one of those holographic type build plates, it'll pick that up and you'll have a shimmery design on top. Let's just dive right in and let me show you how I do these anyway. You can start in your favorite vector editing program. I'm going to use LightBurn myself. Today I'm using LightBurn version 2.1. It's in release candidate, but this is the version that I'm going to be using. I'm just going to right click a blank space on my work area. I'm going to hover over the Windows tab and I'm going to look at my art library. I have several different folders inside of my art library. I have one in here called Lyman, and I'm going to choose a design out of the Lyman folder for today's project. I made this design a while back. I cut this out of 16 gauge steel and I mounted it to a panel that I put together from old pallet wood, and it was about 4 foot tall. But today we're going to shrink this down to about 4 inches. This is the I am my brother's keeper sign that I made pretty good while back. In order to make this coaster, we're just going to make a 4-inch circle. We get our 4-inch circle. We'll do an inward offset. I'm going to hold control. We'll shrink this down just a hair. Let's select that inner circle and bullseye this. Get that in the center. There. Hold shift. Drag it down just a hair. Although I had it perfectly center, I want it to look center. So I'll have the same amount of space down here as up here. That does not always line up with true center, but that's too close to the top for me. There's an extra space down here, so I'm just going to select it and I'm going to pull it down to where it looks good. There. Crud, I forgot to pick my selection tool again. I'm going to make sure that my design is in the very corner here, and that will depend on where your green square is, and that is determined by your job origin. This is set up on the laser tree job profile, so my origin is in the front left. So I'm going to put my design right here. As long as you have this design selected, when you export this to an SVG, it will ignore anything else that's in the work area. So I'm going to select that, export, and we're going to call this a keeper coaster. So we're pretty much done with our vector, so I can minimize my LightBurn and we'll go into Fusion. Now of course you can use your favorite 3D modeling software, whether it be FreeCAD, Fusion, or SolidWorks, or whatever you like using, but I use Fusion for these. So here's how you have to do it now. I'll click New Project, and we get this design selector. We want to make sure we use the hybrid design, so we get all of our tools available to us. I'll show you why you want to use the hybrid here in a minute. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to insert that SVG from my desktop. It was on the, it was Coaster Keeper, yeah. I'll select the plane I want it to be on. Then it will import. And since I had my vector as close to my job origin as I could in LightBurn, it puts it right there in the corner. We'll finish sketch. And let's look at the top view and zoom in a little bit. This process is going to go very quickly, so especially since all of this design is one piece. The first thing I'm going to do is select the entire job. I'm going to hit E on the keyboard. That will bring up my extrude tool. I'm going to extrude this backwards for 1 millimeter. So that's -1. Once that gets extruded, you can see we have a solid disc, and it appears that our design is gone. As soon as you extrude something in Fusion, it hides your sketch. So just come over here to the sketches folder, open it up, and you can see the little eyeball with a slash through it, meaning the sketch is hidden. Just click the little eyeball and we can see our sketch again. Now I'm going to select the border. I'm going to hold Control and select my design. Since all this design is together, all I have to do is hit E. Now I'm going to extrude that forward for 0.5 millimeter. But this time on my job or operation, I want to create a component. This is why we needed to start with a hybrid project. If you had started with just a regular job, you would not see new component. Once we have new component selected, we'll just hit OK, and we can see it extruded our design. This time we're going to have to pick all the other pieces. So I want to start with the background. We'll zoom in, I'll hold Control, and we'll pick up all these little pieces. Go up here to the top. Keep selecting. Make sure you get all the little pieces. Even this little hidden piece down in there. Now, I'm going to extrude that 0.5 so it is flush with the rest of it. And we're going to make this a new component, not a new body, when my computer catches up with me. New component, we're going to hit OK. Now you can see we have two components over here. We'll hide our sketch so we can see it. And guess what I've done? I missed a piece. Well, we do not have to start all over for that. All we have to do is come down here to our timeline, find our last extrude operation, double click it to enter the edit mode. There we go. Once we are back into our edit feature, we can just zoom back in, hold Control, select our piece, and hit OK. Now our piece is perfectly flat, and we are ready to export it. Up here at the top where it says unsaved, I'm going to right click and we're just going to export. First option is the F3D Fusion files. You can save this to your computer so you'll have a backup, but I want to export this as a step file. And we're going to call this Keeper Coaster. And it's going to dump out onto the desktop. Now that that has exported, we can minimize our Fusion. And we can open Bambu. Go into our Prepare window. We will find our keepercoaster.stp on our desktop. And we're just going to drag that in. Hit OK. We can see that it imported super small. We're not really concerned with that too much. We also see that it looks perfectly flat. Don't see any design in it whatsoever. So the first thing let's do is scale this up. You have that with SVGs sometimes. Moving between different programs, the scaling is off. It doesn't matter though, because we know all we have to do is scale this up to 101.6 for 4 inches. And you can hit your paint can, find the fill tool, and you, for this particular coaster, this would be super easy because we only have 2 parts to fill: the main design and the border. And you could go through here and paint it like that if you really hated yourself. Like I said, for this one, it's pretty easy. I want to Control Z, Control Z. This is not the tool you want to use for that. Yeah, let's come over to our Objects tab, and you can see the components that we created in Fusion. I meant to rename my components to the color that I wanted each component to print as. I want to click Component 1, and I'm going to hit the 4 on my keyboard. That's going to assign Component 1 to the 4th drum in my AMS. And it was that easy. Now you can see how deep the white will print. So let's do something about that. That might be a little too deep. So while I'm in the paint tool in Bambu Studio, I want to select the height range. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to thin that white line up a little bit. I want to select that black though. Yeah. You don't need very much for that to come out good. Now the reason I'm doing that is because you don't need but maybe 3 layers of white. 2 might do it. 3 layers of white for it to show up really nice. After it gets past that, it's all black because we're going to print this top down, so there won't be any more filament changes throughout this portion, so it will print faster. Now you can see it's still going to print flat. The design looks good. I want to select the face to put on the build plate, and that's going to be the top face. So we're going to print that top down. So the top will actually pick up the texture of your build plate. And we might want to scoop this to the corner. And maybe you print 4 coasters. You do print 4 coasters. You want to have to make sure you move the purge tower. There we go. Let's slice that up and see how long it's going to take to print. 4 coasters will take 3 hours and 21 minutes. Let's zoom down through the layers and see where the white starts. It's all infill, infill. Still in the infill. There's the white. 3 layers of white. That was pretty good for eyeballing. That's the method I use to do these top-down flat drink coasters. You can put your favorite logos, whatever you need to do, your high school ball teams. Make sure you have rights to the design before you start selling these. Well, alright, I hope you picked something up, and stay tuned for the next one. Y'all have a good one.